Hello and welcome to a very special episode of Under the Abbey Stand. On this pod, we have an extraordinary guest, a true legend of Cambridge United, John Shaggy Taylor, a powerful striker whose name still echoes around the Abbey Stadium. Across two spells with Cambridge United, Shaggy became one of the club's most iconic figures, scoring 86 league goals, more than any other player for the club in more than 330 appearances, and earning his place in the U's Hall of Fame for his truly unforgettable contributions on the pitch to our club. Shaggy was a central part of some of the most exciting eras in Cambridge United's history. Firstly, playing under John Beck and forming a feared partnership with Dion Dublin as the club climbed up the Football League. Then in his second spell with United, more success followed as part of Roy McFarlane's promotion-winning side. But Shaggy's story at Cambridge isn't just about the goals. He went on to manage the first team in the early noughties in some of the darkest days of the club's history. On this pod, we'll be talking to Shaggy about his journey from the terraces of East Anglia to football legend, the highs, the challenges, and the unforgettable moments that shaped his career and the soul of Cambridge United. So sit back as we welcome a true U's great.
Hello, I'm Jordan Warland, and I'm sat above the Portland Arms, which must mean one thing only. We're recording a special pod. And how more special can it be than to have a one-on-one chat with a club legend, a man who won promotions in both his spells here as a player, a former manager, still the club's all-time top goal scorer, and a man who tried to make Something Inside So Strong the club's official anthem. Hello, and a very warm welcome to Under the Abbey Stand to John Shaggy Taylor. Thanks for joining us.
Absolute pleasure. Gosh, I can't remember you brought that back so quickly. Oh my God.
Do you still listen to that in the car as you drive around?
Oh my goodness gracious me.
What was the story there? You had to pick a song to sing.
Yeah.
You couldn't pick Coconuts because obviously you only play that if you win, and it was pre-game.
Yeah, it got to me.
Yeah.
It got to me emotionally, and I thought we'd try that. And no one knew the words apart from me. And we had, however many thousand we had at the Millennium State, trying to sing it, and no one knew the words except me. So I enjoyed it, but it was another one of my damp squibs that.
Did you sense check it with anyone? Did anyone in the squad be like, "What are you doing, Gaffer?" No.
Yeah, no, not really. Oh, I mean, listen, I was in charge. I mean, obviously, we look back, not very successfully in charge, but I don't know why it just sat with me. But anyway, listen, we can look back on, Labby Siffery with great affection.
Well, I have great memories when I think of that song, and obviously the 4-1 wasn't the ideal result, but it was a great day out nonetheless. So thank you for joining us tonight, or on this episode I should say. We're going to talk about your 3 different eras at the club. So your first era as a player, coming back as a player, then your time as manager. But before all of that, we actually now have a 4th era to discuss. News out this week that you're off on a little bit of a jolly to Germany in the new year. Talk to me about this.
Yeah, amazingly, I was approached a little while ago about becoming the U's manager again, and obviously I didn't want to step on Neil's toes, but I ran it past Bonds, and he said, "Yeah, that's a great idea." No, only joking. So listen, I was approached by a friend of a friend who works as a journalist in Germany, and was asked if I could get a group of legends together, ex-players, to play in a tournament in Berlin, early part of January. Was quite excited by the idea, was then dependent on whether I could get enough players to play. So just put it out there and had a good response, and hence we are, trailing Cambridge United in Europe early part of January 26.
Am I right in thinking we're the only English club in the tournament?
We are the only English club in the tournament. So Borussia Dortmund, yellow and black, with a big yellow wall. They had to pull out for some reason this year. So quite fitting, I think, that the amber and black are taking their place.
Absolutely. A better shade of yellow, get them involved. So how did the squad selection come about? Were you involved in that, or were people at the club going to get involved?
So they sort of left it to me, and I said, listen, I'll see what happens. So I put the feelers out to pretty much everyone that I've played with.
Yeah.
The ones that are injured finished, too old, too fat, too young. And the response was quite amazing, really. And the squad that we've got together, I think is a pretty good balance.
Yeah.
And without question, we've got, a couple of absolute, ex-superstars for Cambridge United.
Amazing. And did you get everyone that you wanted? Is there anyone that you would love to have, but they can't make it?
No, not really, because I put it out there, and it was really, the ones who wanted to come and play would always, the ones who first responded, really, and I kept it pretty much to that. There, we talk about some people who Wes Houlihan, what a player he's been for the football club, fantastic. If I'd have got Paul Mullen, for all the goals he scored, but he's otherwise engaged at the moment.
Don't know if he can do it on a five-a-side pitch.
No, that's the point. Dion's obviously a bit too busy at the moment with all this stuff going on. So, apart from the people that we know about, we've got a really good team, really good balance, and we're gonna have a great couple of days over there.
How's it worked so far? Are you going to have a bit of a get-together, have a knock-around, or are you just going to rock up in Berlin and go from there?
Honestly, the questions you throw to me, these were all the questions. See, I think you could be the manager, because I've thought about these. So I put it out to the boys. Shall we get together? I obviously have a few non-league connections. We'll have a little warm-up just to see how we're feeling. Nope, we're just going to rock up. We're going to play it as it is, and, we're going to go for it off the bat.
Amazing. Well, best of luck with the tour. Hopefully we can get some podcast content around it. We'll talk about that off air. But yeah, if it's all right, let's talk about some of the more better known times in eras as a Cambridge United player. I guess my opening question, going back to the very start, how did the John Taylor football story start?
Cool. So the John Taylor football story at Cambridge started 88, 89, non-league, Sudbury Town, playing in central midfield, not playing very well. Becky and Chris Turner were watching, about to disappear in the car, got pushed up front for the last 15 minutes. They carried on watching. I did a bit better. They thought maybe have a look. Was invited down for a couple of weeks training back end of the season with people like Laurie Ryan and George Riley, and did okay. And then I remember obviously being invited to play in the pre-season friendly against Leicester.
Yep.
When you just had one of those games where nothing went wrong. Everything went right for me. The touches were spot on. Had some couple of chances, scored the goal. And that's when it started. It was an amazing experience for me at the time. And
so you were a centre mid to start with, and did you play up front much, or was that a one-off?
In and out, but I was just in that evening game. I had no idea that Cambridge were coming.
Yeah,
and I was playing in midfield for most of the game, and wasn't playing particularly well. And then as the game went on, it was required that I went up front and did a bit better, and that was the start of the journey.
That squad that Turner put together, and obviously Beck is probably better known because he was in charge when the promotions happened, but Turner put a lot of it together, if I'm remembering it correctly. Yeah. Whereabouts were you in terms of the puzzle pieces? Were you quite early on, or were some of the other names that would go on to be sort of, household names, were they already there?
No, so it felt like I was pretty early.
Yeah.
I remember Big George was coming, obviously Big George Riley was coming to the end of his career, whether I was the replacement for George. But they had Laurie, who had the pace about him, and he was like the whippet off the big man.
Yeah.
And then they signed me, and then other people sort of arrived and developed in the team. So if you talk about the main characters of that group, so Dacey arrived, and then Chappie arrived, Vorney, Dion came from Norwich, in and around the same time as I sort of was there the following season. And as we all know from the story as it goes, Dion didn't have the greatest of starts, and one or two things just fell in his favour, and he's got on to wonderful, wonderful experiences in football. Michael Cheatham came later from Ipswich, Lee Philpott came later from Peterborough. So I was part of the early development, and it was, once we got the group together, once Turns got that group and then handed it over to John, it was a really, really good group of people, but footballers as well. They were, we were good football players. It was, we know about the way that we played. That's just part of history of Cambridge United.
Yeah, questions on that coming up. Don't worry.
Yeah, no,
Inevitably.
I'm sure. But the two of them, Chris and John, they got a good group of players together.
At what point did you think this group could go somewhere, and did you ever think it would go as high as it did?
No, is the honest answer to start with. We had no idea where this would take us. We all had a bit of hunger and a bit of desire because of where we'd come from. Obviously, I'd come from non-league. Phil and Dion had come from Norwich and been released. Other people had happened to the same. There's documented stuff about Lee, and Cheats came from Ipswich. So he got this group together, and we really didn't have an idea. And because of that, I think we were probably not naive in what the expectations were, but we had nothing to fear, nothing to lose. And so when the certain aspects of the way John wanted to play was put in front of us, we accepted that without any reason not to. And then success came quite quickly in terms of results. And then there was a belief in what we were doing, and that pushed us forward.
Of that group, of those players from that period, who for you would you say, who would you single out as like the most important or the best players? It might not necessarily be the ones that have then gone on and played for Man United or whatever, but who was the most sort of important players in the squad for you?
Oh, gosh, that's a really, really good question. I genuinely believe that we all brought into what we were doing. If you're talking about, who was the most skillful player, who had the best touch, there were some players. Stevie Claridge, when he arrived, his hold-up play was fantastic. It was unbelievable, right? And Alan Kimball had one of the best left foots this club has ever seen. He's on a par with David Priest. Yeah, he's on a par with Wes. He's on a par with Murray. Yeah, those left-footed players. Harrison Dunk, he's right up there. Centre halves. You talk about some of the centre halves this football club's had. Stevie Fallon, in the Hall of Fame, but Liam Dace, Phil Chappell, Chris Turner himself. And then you talk about football players. You talk about Becky. He was actually playing when Turns was, when I was there, he was playing in midfield. So we've had some really, really talented footballers, but I think, and Phil Chappell at the Hall of Fame dinner a couple of weeks ago said that in terms of a group, it was tight.
Brilliant.
We were together.
And do you still stay in touch with most of that lot? Have you still got that connection?
I think that's like marriages. You know what I mean? Some they stay forever and some they go. And football is built around contracts, 2 years, moving on. Once the teams and the players sort of left, you lose the closeness. But strangely, when I've met up with a lot of the ex-players, perhaps at the Hall of Fame dinners especially, there has been a connection straight back to, I'll tell you a story about Dacey. Right?
Please do, yeah.
I nearly swore then.
Feel free to swear, yeah.
He scared me.
Yeah.
He was a hard man. And I wasn't sure whether he connected with me during our time there, right? And then when we met at the Hall of Fame dinner, it was like we were like best of friends who hadn't seen each other 30 years. It was like we hugged, we said hello, we smiled, and we reminisced, and it was wonderful. It was a really, really humbling experience to meet someone again after such a long time and have that feeling that actually I probably misread it and misread the situation, but it just goes to show that, you know, you can't always see everything in everyone, but it was just wonderful.
Yeah. So a name we've hovered around a couple of times, but we've got to go there. John Beck. What was he like?
Okay, so without question, John is and still is the most successful manager this football club's ever had, right? When he got us all together, or Turns got us all together, and John moulded us with the statistician, we were amazingly successful, okay? I genuinely don't believe you'll ever really hear from that squad a bad word about John, okay? He had his little bits and pieces, as everyone does.
Yeah.
I suspect that a lot of players like me, and this goes to even when I got transferred to Bristol Rovers, we genuinely believe, a lot of us, that if he'd have just tweaked it a little bit and allowed a little bit more freedom at the time when he probably needed to, and that was not based on the fact that we couldn't carry on playing the way that we could, because we obviously generally could.
Yeah.
But I think teams worked us out. They worked us out a little bit, that if they just dropped and dropped and dropped like Swindon did when Glenn Hoddle sort of worked us out a little bit, we had then nowhere to go. And then if they became better at defending against the set plays, the long balls, we didn't quite have that ability to create and finish so many chances. Yeah. And I think a lot of us would have said that if he'd have just allowed us a little bit more freedom, perhaps, certainly in the final third, he might have become not only one of the great, you know, most successful managers, and probably is still the greatest in terms of what he's done in terms of results and promotions, etc. He could have written his own storyline right at the death.
I'm going to come back and ask you about the end of your first era in a bit, but there's some good happy moments to talk about before we get there. But just on Beck, before we move on, like, what was he like as a coach? Was he good at getting the best out of individuals? Is he a good man manager?
Yeah, he was. He was a great coach. He motivated. He knew what he wanted. He was very single-minded. But in any business, any sport, you'll have times when things don't go well, when people don't agree with what you say. But that's just the way that life is. That's the way that it works. Yeah. And it's the way that you come back from that, the way that you respond to that, the way that you respect the actions of the man who's in charge. And it works no difference. You know, I remember there was a time we were practicing for the Leicester City game, which was live on the Sunday. And I remember the ball came up to me, controlled it on my chest, hooked it into the channel. Michael Cheatham ran down, crossed it. I couldn't get there. It was impossible, physically impossible for me to get there. John demanded that I got there. Yeah. I couldn't. So, because he was so single-minded, I lost my place. Steve came in. Him and Dion then scored 2, and it wasn't for another 6 weeks I got a game. But that is just the way that it was. You had to try to do what was in front of you.
And when he first pitched these ideas, you know, the long balls, the play into the corner and so forth, what was the group's response to that? Was it, I don't know, was anyone sort of bemused by it, or did you just buy into sort of the vision and the results thereafter then just made it easy to follow?
We definitely brought into the vision because we had, listen, where were we going? I was playing for Sudbury, working in a shipping company on 2 and 3 bob a week. Yeah. And he's offered me the chance to be a professional football player. So, the bottom line is, whatever he wants me to do, I am going to try and do the best of my ability. And that's, I think, that's where a lot of us were. So you tell us what to do, Gaffer. We'll try and do it. And if it's successful, like anything, why would you change it?
Yeah.
Until such point as people understand, and maybe you then think, oh, I've got to change a little bit.
Yeah. Did you know about the other things that were going on with him? The cold tea and the windows being left open on the dressing room windows for opposing teams, and the light bulbs. All, ultimately feels like he was quite an early adopter of shithousing in football. Did the squad know that stuff was going on as well, or did he keep that to himself?
Okay, so those three things, the things you say about shithousing, listen, they are just really minuscule things that you put in place at that point to try and, get the opposition in a different frame of mind. You got to remember that if I went to see a runner, any runner, and they said, right, you're about to run a marathon. They go and run a marathon, and they finish the marathon, and they then said, I'm going to have a cold shower, I'm going to jump in an ice bath. They'd say, well, of course I am. That's what I do.
Yeah.
So John knew about that. Forget about the cold showers, because he didn't have an ice bath.
Yeah.
But cold showers and the likes of that, it was almost his identity that brought that in. Now it's commonplace. So there are some things that were, yes, a little bit strange, but there were also things that he made that were way in front of his time.
Yeah.
Way in front of his time.
Let's talk about some of the games and some of those sort of big moments from your first time as a player. The run to the Division 4 playoff final at Wembley. What are your big memories of that season? When someone asks you about that season, where does your head automatically go?
I remember being at the Wembley Hideaway before we were actually playing, sitting on the motorbike and having a picture on the motorbike. I remember banging my knee and having to come off at Wembley because I clashed knees with the boy Sterling.
Yeah.
I remember the FA Cup run.
Of course.
At home to Woking. I was awful. And I remember Randall Butt saying he could easily have been taken off, and then I managed to score with almost the last kick of the game, and then managed to score in every other round up to getting beat by Crystal Palace.
Yeah.
And I remember a lot of the times that we just felt unbeatable.
Yeah.
And we just drove ourselves to getting into that 7th place, because we weren't, without question, that year, we weren't the finished article. But to be able to get into that position and then, be the first ever winners of a playoff final at Wembley was, it's just, it's stories that you tell your grandchildren. It's, it makes the hair on the back of your neck just stand up when you think about it. It was an amazing achievement.
The run-in for that season, am I right in thinking he played a lot of games in a short period of time? Was that season or the next one?
Well, it's good you asked that. So I listen, I'm 61 now, so if you can't remember and you haven't got your bit of paper, I've got no chance. Yeah. However, I remember we had 4 games in 7 days. So we played
this is the one.
Saturday, Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, and one of them was away at Bournemouth, because I remember we went to Harry Redknapp's pasta place that he recommended or whatever. So yeah, 4 in 7 days. And I think, if I remember rightly, we won all 4.
Yeah.
Or certainly won at least 3 out of the 4.
What was that like as a squad? Because obviously that's such a big amount of games, and you see now sort of teams complaining about sort of fixture congestion and things like that, and then you sort of reel off that stat. Like,
do you know? I remember again. Then this is going back to John's single-mindedness in knowing this is how we're going to do it, and I'm going to live and die by what we do. So we played a game at home to Southend, and before the game had started, he said, "John, you're going to play the first 45 minutes, and Dion, you're going to play the second 45 minutes. So we started 2-0. I think we were up at half time. I definitely got one of them, might even add two, but that didn't change. Mm-hmm. So I came off at half time. Dion came on. I think we ended up winning the game, but it was 2-1 and it was close. But that's what he was going to do.
Yeah.
And he made those decisions, and you know, they'll always be in my mind, that type of how we got to where we got to.
Yeah. The was it Maidstone in the playoff semis?
Fantastic.
Yeah, tell me about those nights.
Oh my, that was the best night. I can remember going down there because we'd drawn the first leg, hadn't we? 1-1. Went down there. Not really many people, apart from perhaps our own, gave herself a chance. The pitch was like, it was like I imagine if you go to Africa on a dust bowl, it was like playing on that.
Yeah.
And I remember it was 1-1, and then we were in extra time, weren't we? And Dion got taken out for the penalty, and Cheat scored the penalty, didn't he?
Yeah,
side-footed it. Oh, it reminded me.
Was he always on pens, or did you inquire about taking it? Or
no. I don't. I was useless. Honestly, we'll come to that, I think. But it reminded me. Do you remember when I came back under Roy McFarlane? We got promoted.
Of course.
At when we won 2-0 away at Rochdale.
Yeah.
And I scored that penalty.
Yep.
It reminded me of that because it bounced 2 or 3 times, didn't it, before it got in the corner?
Yeah.
And then obviously, you know, the hysteria of actually getting to Wembley.
Yeah.
And we partied hard that night, I'll tell you. That was we had 5 barrels in the 5 bells on the way home on Newmarket Road when we got back that night. That was a good night.
Terrific. You mentioned the FA Cup. What is your favourite memory of those 2 seasons? Because obviously there was the season we lost to Palace, then the following year, Highbury away. It's probably a horrible question, but if you had to pick a favourite from those 2 runs, where'd you go to straight away?
Okay, so on a personal level,
Bristol
City at home in the 5-1. So yes. I've set the 4 up and scored the 5th. Sorry if I'm blowing my own trumpet that one, but
is that not the one? Was it Philpott that scored an outrageous sort of half volley headed box? Yeah.
Amazing night.
What a goal that was! Yeah.
What a goal that was. So
not to take away from your 4 assists, obviously.
No, of course. No. Just gotta you got to water it down a touch. Yeah. And then, so I remember being away at Highbury.
Yeah.
Being away at Highbury.
Yeah.
And so I remember David Seaman getting the ball out.
Yeah.
And rolling it out to Nigel Winterburn. Mm-hmm. And he started dribbling down the pitch. The noise of the crowd got incessantly louder the further he got. Yeah. And I swear the hairs, and I was playing in the game, on the back of my neck stood up as the noise rose. It was an amazing experience. Something in terms of a huge crowd that I wish I'd experienced again, better. Yeah. But yeah, amazing. And then, of course, you've got Dion with the equalising goal. You've then got the bit of the scrap between the full-back and the centre-half.
Yeah.
You got 4,000, whatever it was, Cambridge fans with the rest locked out because it wasn't all ticket. Just, amazing.
Before we started recording, we spoke about how you'd driven past Ipswich today. And we talked about that moment where the victory at Ipswich sent us top of what is now the Championship. What was the feeling like in the squad at that moment in time? Because it wasn't too long after that the move to Bristol came about, right? So where were the group at that moment? In a good place, or was it starting to be a bad place because of sort of people clocking onto the tactics?
No, I think at the time that result, the boys were absolutely flying. I mean, the move that I moved to Bristol wasn't so. And this is, again, people say, well, actually, this was the worst transfer this club's ever done. I went there. Devon came here. £80,000 went. Blah 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 blah. If you ask John, he'll probably say, yeah, that's probably one of his poorer moves. However, during the years that I was playing, those first 3 years, I started off each season very well. Mm-hmm. But my body couldn't quite adapt to 8 months, 9 months of at it all the time. So it was even after that time, my New Year spells, if we say so, after January, they did peak off. They did drop off a bit. So I could see and understand why he wanted to give the club a boost on the promotion run-in for hopefully the first ever, Premier League. In this instance, it didn't quite work out, but I understood completely the reasons why.
Were you on good terms when you left, or was there sort of disappointment and anger towards sort of being sold, or?
At the time, we're now moving into another direction that maybe we come back to in another pod.
Yeah.
So I was a gambler, as been well documented, compulsive.
Yeah.
And at the time, it allowed me to earn more money.
Yeah.
Pay off some debts.
Yeah.
Have a fresh start. So in terms of that, there was no animosity at all.
Okay.
And as I've spoken on many occasions, there is no animosity to John because he gave me a start and did this and did that.
Did you play for him again at Lincoln? Did you cross over there?
We did.
Yeah,
did, and I go back, so to when I was at Colchester and went on loan. You're correct. And when I left, I had a reporter from the Daily Mirror.
Wow. Okay.
Right? And I was a compulsive gambler, so you've got to remember this. I had a reporter from the Daily Mirror offer me a lot of money to call John a 4-letter word.
Yeah.
A lot of money. And he said, all you've got to do is say that and I'll write the story. Right? So that's not me.
Yeah.
So I didn't, obviously, because that's not the way that I am.
Yeah.
But people have their own opinion of John. He gave me a chance in football that I would never, ever have had. He gave me the opportunity to score as many goals as I did for Cambridge United. And although he was the one who theoretically ended my first bit here, he set me up in a world that I would never have had if it hadn't have been for him and Chris Turner. So I have the utmost respect for everything he's done for this football club. In the story.
One last question on this era, and then we'll move on to 1997 and the return. But one last question on this era: do you individually or collectively, when you meet up or see people from that group, say you mentioned seeing Liam Dace recently and so on, do you guys ever ask that question? What if what if you hadn't moved to Bristol Rovers? What if Becky had listened and we'd maybe change it? Do you reckon you would have made it to the Prem?
Life's such a good game of what ifs, though, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's. I think that if I hadn't have gone through certain things I've gone through in my life, then I would still ask that question.
Yeah.
But I think that you make the right decisions and the best decisions with all the information that you have at that time, and then you have to live with it. Because if you look back, and you think about, well, if I'd only done this, if I'd only done that, you can't change it.
Yeah.
What's happened yesterday you can't change, and you don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. So you might as well just live for the day and love what's happened in your life, good and bad, and learn from it.
Yeah.
And enjoy it if it's been good, and learn from it if it's been bad.
So January 1997 then sees your return to the club. Did you ever think you'd come back, and how did the move come about?
Did I think I'd come back? I genuinely thought that I had some unfinished business, but I didn't know why.
Yeah.
Really. I was playing for Luton. I'd had a back operation. What is now the Championship at the time was just too much for me physically with my back. I'd gone on loan to Colchester and was really enjoying my football and ready to sign for them.
Yeah.
and then got a call from the little fella, Precy,
Yeah.
saying, listen, we'd like to have you back at the Abbey. Would you like to have a chat with Roy? And so I did. And I remember, meeting up, having a chat, and because of where I'd been before, and I thought about this unfinished business, I just felt that I had to come back.
Yeah.
And I think Colchester were a little bit aggrieved that I'd gone, because I'd done so well for them as well, and could quite easily have signed for them.
The wrong use, though, mate. The wrong use.
Yeah, and although I didn't know at the time, Roy McFarlane's Roy McFarlane.
Well, I was going to ask, what's Roy McFarlane like?
Oh,
what was he like to work with? What was he like for your career?
Oh, he's just the nicest bloke you could ever want to work for.
Yeah.
I mean, he was just he was a good coach, but he was an absolute legend of a bloke. And we speak every now and again, and obviously he does his hospitality stuff at Derby now and bits and pieces, but him and Precy, they were the ultimate combination. Yeah. And I when I was involved being the reserve team manager, it was when I look back, it was fantastic to watch them work. He was so straight down the line, sort of honest with it, and Precy was like the rogue agent. So he'd do everything, bless him, that was against the rules. You know what I mean? He'd speak to people, tap people up, he'd do this and do that. He was, bless him, he was fantastic at it. Yeah. And he'd always go under the radar. They were just a fantastic duo, and I love working with them.
You're probably going to say, the power of hindsight here, but jumping forward, the sacking of Roy McFarlane, at the time, how did that feel for the squad? Did it feel like it was the right thing? And with a bit of time, do you look back on that and go, do you know what? I think the club got it wrong.
Because I am a huge Roy fan,
yeah,
and he gave me the opportunity to get into coaching and gave me some advice that is fantastic. I'll take to the grave. I think they got it wrong.
Yeah,
I think there are probably some reasons outside of results-based things that probably, didn't force the sacking, but things have gone off the pitch that I don't exactly know what the truth is.
Yeah.
And that probably played some part. But in terms of, again, what he did for Cambridge and the players that he brought in, he brought in another squad which probably was as good as I've played in.
Yeah.
In terms of technical players that I've played in terms of where they were allowed to play. So with John, great players, Steve Claridge, Dion, Richard Wilkins, Cheats, Lee Phil, but they could all play, but we were a little bit held back, a little bit reserved in what we could do. Alex Russell, Martin Butler, Big Trev, Wanney, run through a brick wall for you.
Yeah.
Ian Ashby could play. You know what I mean? The back players could play. Chenners, Lionel Perez, what a legend he was. You know what I mean? So that group of players were as good a bunch of individuals and then collectively of footballers intermixed with, the solidness of Wanney and etc. The bulk and the strength of Trevor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, how did that front three compare to your first time round? So obviously, first time round, Claridge, Dublin, they went on to, play numerous games in the Prem and big careers. But how did it feel, playing with, Martin Butler and Trevor Benjamin and those attacking players, that front three? And were you, if I'm trying to remember it correctly, were you you played as a three? Were you dropping a little bit deeper? And
so, no, we played as a three. However, so Trevor was on the left-hand side. He was young and he was raw.
Yeah.
But he would knock people over. He would drive into the box. He would win his headers. Martin was
chase the keeper down. I remember a few of those goals.
As Martin Butler was. So Martin was the runner. He was the focal point. And I had the experience on the right-hand side to know when to go, when not to go, when to help and balance off the team. So it was different because we played as a 3.
Was that uncommon at the time, playing 3 up top?
It was just starting to come in a little bit. But we played as a 3. Obviously, when Becky was in charge, we played as a direct 2. So that was a much easier thing to play as a pair. But I remember that Michael, who's coming on the tour, Kiddie,
Michael Cage,
he was really the one who should have been in the 3. But unfortunately at the time, little injuries, little drops of form, didn't quite, but and then you had Alex Russell, Ian Ashby, Wani as a let's say a midfield 3. So you had the strength of Wani, who could go and join and become a 4th, and you had Alex and Aggie who could sit there and play and pop it. That was and then you're going to talk about the away game at Forest.
Oh, it's on the list. Don't you worry.
On the list.
It's on the list. Don't you worry. Before we get there, a couple other questions. Am I right in thinking that when you reached out to Julian about doing this podcast, you called him up and did you ask him who his favourite Cambridge player was? Is that how the conversation started? Because I want to know if I'd got that call and I'd said Martin Butler, how would you have responded?
How would I have responded? I would have said that's a pretty decent choice.
Yeah, good stuff.
I have a huge respect for Martin. He hasn't been too well lately, so hopefully he's feeling a bit better. But he was another one who just drove himself for the cause.
Yeah,
and I think that when you look at players and supporters, because they're a fickle bunch, aren't they?
Yeah, absolutely. There's
2 things they want, right? They don't really care how you play, not really, right? They want to win. And when you go on a pitch and you wear a shirt, they want you to run around as if you care for the yellow and amber and black of Cambridge United. That's all they want.
Yeah.
Results will take care of themselves. We had some players who would do that. Martin Butler would do that. Wally would do that. I think I come in that category. I would do that. I was never the best player in the world. I know I wasn't. I'm very fortunate that my record of being the leading goal scorer will probably never get beaten, because if you take someone like Paul Mullen, who scored a wonderful lot of goals, they're not going to stay around for 3 or 4 or 5 years to beat my record. Yeah. So, I've been very lucky. But I think that when you see people running around, giving their all for the football club, supporters will happily accept that, whatever the outcome of football matches. Because that's what they want. Yes, they want to win, of course. But, they just want to see the lads have a go.
If you've enjoyed the conversation so far with Shaggy, you'll need to be a Coconut Tier member to hear the interview in its entirety. Head to undertheabbeystand.com to find out more about the Coconut Tier and what great features you get for just £5 a month. Thanks for listening, and see you on the other side.